Good morning, I'm Dr. Fixmaster. Let's bust our knuckles today on a passenger side half shaft for a 8th generation Honda Civic. Mine is a 2008 EX. Here is the part lying on the floor. I just got it from AutoZone. Let's get busy. First step, jack up the car and put it on jack stands. I'm going to put my jack stand right back here, put another one underneath in the front that's not going to be touching, but it's going to protect me from, it'll be a backup. Time to take off the spindle nut. I've mentioned this before. Hopefully you can see that. It says 654.20. It's just some kind of a spindle nut tool remover. It's got a special tip on it, which should facilitate this little operation. Do it. This one's going to need an extension because it wouldn't come off. So I just wrapped a pipe around this thing and I'm going to go sit on the end of it. Something like that. There we go. That was my tire falling over. It's broken free. Spindle nut comes right off. Thrown away. Now, next step is to get underneath. There are 17 millimeters bolts on the bottom, the same ones that I showed you on my other video. I'll just give you another look. Let's come over here, get my light on it. Okay, now 17 millimeters. I got to get that one, got to get that one, and I got to get that one right there. A friend online also suggested that if you loosen the bolts here up above, that one, 17, that's what I want. Okay, I'm going to take on these two now. This one, and remove those because got a tip from someone that said that would make it easier. Basically, I'm going to tap on this, tap it in while I'm pulling the hub out, trying to separate those splines from the hub. but I don't know if I can demonstrate that or not. We'll see how it goes. Yeah, that's separated. I just got to pull it out. Alright, I got both of those bolts out according to my friend's suggestion, and I'm just trying to wiggle this off. I put a pry bar right down, so I can get a good angle on it. Yeah, where those right here, where these bolts come through, I just put a pry bar in there to separate the pieces, and they're kind of stuck together right now. They're pretty tight, but you can see the two there. Well, there's the hole there, and I've removed it from the hole, and it's still laying on top of this, but I'm trying to separate it. So we'll see if taking these out makes it easier. I'm going to wrestle with it a bit more. I need to thank my friend for a very helpful suggestion. I just wiggled on this at the top. These separate, come out of the slot, and that gives me plenty of play that I can now get this, push that spindle the rest of the way through and take that shaft out. I noticed that this was getting put under tension, so I you just squeeze the top and the bottom of this little clip right here. Let's see if I can get the sun on it. Squeeze the top and bottom of that little clip, pop it out of this bracket right here so that it, wiggles around and has some room to move. And that should give me enough space to pull the sub off. As you can see, it moves around a lot, so it's not going to take much to get it out of there. Alright, with these two bolts free and that clip undone, I had tons of room, so thanks to my friend online. And that just pulled right out, no problem. I'm supporting the weight. I don't want the full weight of the hub on the that stabilizer bar, so I'm just holding it up until I can get the, well, maybe I can just prop it up with something, and then I can work on the shaft underneath and just pull it out with the pry bar. Here's a neat little trick. With the steering knuckle still attached, rotate the whole hub out that way, and then just rest it on the brake rotor on a jack stand. That'll hold it up for you while you maneuver underneath to take the shaft out, which is completely, it's completely free to move. There is my objective. That's where the shaft fits into the transmission. You can see, the brownish metal, and then there's like a silvery metal, and then to the left you see a groove. The widest one you can see there is where I need to stick a pry bar and work on it until it pops free. There's a little ring in there, just like I described in my other video. It always stays in place. It's not going to fly anywhere, but you just have to fight with it and pry that thing out until you hear it pop so that you can remove it. Just pull it out. I had somebody ask me to show how it was done, but I've got one hand on my camera, one hand on my light, and I'm right underneath the car, so I'm going to need my hands to get that done, and I'm not going to have any hands left for videoing, so I'm going to have to let you trust me on that one. Success. That's what it looks like when it finally comes free. I had to use my pry bar to get that out, but it wasn't too awful. Now I'm just going to go back outside and just pull it out. You can see the shaft in there. It's all dislodged and everything, so I'm just going to grab onto it and gently back it out, pulling it my way, and it should, ow, yes, that's my knuckle buster right there. Ugh. Happens every time. Okay, you got to be careful of that. I tied this up because it was, as you can see, tending to slip off of the jack stand. So please don't lose your fingers doing this, but secure it, not like me. And now this thing is ready to come completely out, but I can't do it with one. Oh, looks like I can do it with one hand. Okay. I'm gonna put it right over here, next to the other one. Quick check, make sure that I have the right part. Nothing broken, nothing bleeding. You can still move it. Yikes. Okay. Here's the old part, there's the new part. Sitting next to each other, looks like they are the same, look a little bit different. Don't be too concerned if the total length is slightly different, because there is some play, I don't think in this joint, but in the one back here, the one with the cup on it, there's some play in this direction in there, so they're, you know, these things can not exactly be the same length, but just the guys at AutoZone should know what they're doing and telling you the right part for the car that you have. But what I'm going to do now is just put this other one back in, same way that I took this first one out. And when you do that, you got to be super careful. You can see, if I zoom in here, the little clip that holds it in place once you get it in there. That thing bends out and then comes back in as it engages inside the transmission. The other one has it too. So that's what will give you that it'll feel like an obstacle as it's going in. You want to engage the splines on the outside, these little grooves, these splines. You want to just gently turn the thing and push it in and out until you can feel those splines engage in the right place, because there's grooves they want to slide into. And then you will meet the resistance as this clip comes into contact with it. So make sure that you've got those splines engaged first so that you don't damage the stuff on the inside of the transmission. But once you get it to that point, you'll have to give it a good jerk to get it in there, and then you can just reassemble everything the same way you took it off and you're done. I threaded the new axle into the transmission, lined up the splines, and when I rotated the thing when I was under the car, you could hear the gears in there engaging on either side, so there's a little bit of play in the direction of drive. You want to be confident that you get those lined up so that you don't do any damage when you push it in. I'm having a hard time getting it in, but it's problematic having this hub assembly out here, so when I propped it up like this, you got to lean. I decided to lean the bracket side of it up here. That gets it out of the way enough that you can work on this. Once you know the splines are engaged, you're going to have to give this a couple of good, you don't want to produce too much impact on the joints, the stuff on the inside, the bearings and things. But I just pushed to remove all the slack and then gave this a couple of good shoves, and you can hear it pop back in on the inside. So it's fully engaged over there now, and now I just have to reassemble this hub. So I think what I'm going to do is, you want these splines here to engage in the hub splines, and so I'm going to put some WD-40 or PC bolt blaster in there to make it slide a little nicer. I don't want to have to fight with that. Not PC blaster, PB. Fabulous blaster. Powerful penetrating catalyst. So I'm going to catalyze this. Just make it gooey. Make sure your fingers don't have grit and sand on them when you do this. Some people like to use gloves, but I probably should too. Oh, my pants are good rags. Alright, let that soak in a little bit. and reassemble this baby. Okay, next step is to just raise the hub up on those 3 posts, just to take the weight off, and I'm going to thread those through. And there's flexibility in this end spline on the shaft to get through this hole, and so I'm just going to point it down in and thread it on as I line this bracket. Getting those 18mm bolts back in threaded is a bit of a challenge, but what you have to do is just grab onto the brake caliper right here and just jerk it back and forth and yank on it while you're pushing in on the bolt, and eventually it'll line up and pop in. I just have to tighten these down now. One word before we continue is that in order to get those in, these 3 down here, we took off at the beginning. Oops, it's a little bright. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 17mm under here. Those 3 have to be out. You can have the holes threaded, but there has to be enough room here for this to wiggle back and forth in order to get enough play on those holes up there to allow those bolts to slide in like that. Oh. The job of getting the spindle through the hub and seated belongs to this guy. So my new axle shaft came with a new spindle nut, which is nice. I've also got a box of them just in case. Oops. So I'm going to screw this on, and then I'm going to use that special tool again once I get it all tightened down to 135 foot-pounds on my torque wrench. Now, what if you don't have a torque wrench? Well, if you're good at guessing, it means you have to have 135 pounds on a wrench that's 1 foot long, or half that on a wrench that's 2 feet long. So if you can guess those quantities, feel free to do it without a torque wrench, but torque wrenches aren't that much at an auto parts store. Alright, I'm going to crank that down, and then I'm going to take my special tool and I'm going to dent that and put it in the groove after it's all tightened down. I'm going to put a dent in that just like the other one so that that thing won't rotate. We don't want your wheel falling off while you're driving down the highway. Putting the specified torque on it now. 135. Should be good. I'm just going to put the tire back on. Oh, by the way, do yourself a favor. Don't get any PB blaster on your brake rotors, because that'll mess up your brakes. They won't work. So I'm going to have to clean that off really well. I'm going to put some solvent on there, and maybe I'll try some alcohol. I got to get all of that off of there, so just don't do that. Now for the grand finale. I have to hammer in the nut. There it is. Just got to put a dent in the side of it. Looking good. Yeah, I think that's probably good. Just has to be dented enough to not come loose. So I think that'll do the trick. I think we're done. I'm just going to put the tire on, but you don't need to see that. Happy fixing. And thanks for watching.